Now, Premier Oscar Mabuyane says they're having difficulty understanding what occurred, but will wait for a police investigation. The Premier joins me now for reaction. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Premier. We do appreciate it. I want to first ask you, you were there today. We've been receiving conflicting reports about what could have possibly transpired in that club/tavern. From your understanding, being on the ground today, what happened?
Hi, good evening, Heidi. Also, thank you very much for having me, and good evening to our viewers. Indeed, it's a very, very difficult one. It's a tall order. Difficult to fathom exactly what has happened there. But it's one of those issues that you feel like they could have been avoided if we probably would be doing all what we can to take our full responsibility in our society. It's a very sad thing. We woke up in this terrible news, and when you arrive there, you see real catastrophe and young bodies lying around, losing about 21 young lives aging between 13 and 17. It's a problem. And when you look at it in terms of those ages that we were exposed to, you, of course, believe that definitely there's been an undermining of the rule of law. Those cardinal rules that Mr. Timan spoke about, that your license itself is not just an open-ended license. It has got parameters. You can do certain things. You cannot just do as you wish, but also bylaws that are also regulating the traders, when to open and when to close, things like those. There seems to be a lot of laissez-faire in that space when you look at issues. Yes, of course, the challenge we have now, the current legislation allows people to trade wherever they are, and then they have a license. And of course, the license was confirmed to be the valid license. We're only happy that there's now a review of that law, which also suggests that there must be demarcation where people can do liquor trading, etc. It's a very bad thing, very, very bad thing. We can't understand the whole day. It's a dark cloud over our province, a dark cloud over the Buffalo City Metro Municipality. It's a very, very sad to those families. And you can imagine in the area where this thing has happened, very struggling families, and, literally people who don't have anything, just losing lives. That would be bringing hope, a new hope to their families in the future. It's a very, very sad situation, I don't want to lie.
It's very devastating. I mean, our own police minister, Begitele, could not hold back his tears. And it speaks to the issue of what actually happened. I'm not really getting a response from you with regards to your understanding of what happened. There are reports coming out that it could have been a stampede. There are reports coming out that it could possibly be a poisoning, alcohol poisoning. And I know investigations are underway, but is there any indication from your understanding as to what actually happened? We're speaking about teenagers, the youngest being 13.
We really don't want to speculate around those issues. We can make such assumptions, but we just thought that it's important to leave that work to police. The experts are there. People are investigating, the police themselves. Tomorrow we are also joined by the national team to reinforce. So I think we wanted just to leave it there so that we don't also create stories that cannot be substantiated. But we believe that the truth is going to come out, and surely the community was there indicating a lot of stories, raising concerns that they've been raising with authorities, that this has been a problem, opening on awkward times, sometimes creating this problem. So you can't have people younger than 18 years having an access to liquor. It's a problem. So we've observed the situation, we've seen it. We don't want to say stampede or not, but we don't really see stampede in the upstairs, but people have died in upstairs. But we want to leave that to police to tell us exactly what has happened. I think the owner himself has come up to say he would be cooperating and will be willing to be assisted for himself as well. He doesn't know exactly what has happened. So I think that investigation will be able to tell us, but also the post-mortem that will be performed, probably a sense of what has exactly happened there.
Premier, perhaps just speak to us about who you think should take responsibility for this. Do you not think that the owner of this tavern should be arrested?
Well, the investigation is going to lead, but we believe, remember, the owner was trading there legally with a license, but of course, license that has got limitations, that you cannot sell liquor to people younger than 18 years. Everyone who's supposed to take responsibility must take responsibility on that one, including the owner. If that investigation leads to the owner being found on the wrong side of the law, definitely the owner must take responsibility. But looking at it, something like this, a tragedy like this happen on a day that is actually set aside by the world for anti-drug abuse awareness. And something happens like this, the problem of liquor consumption, the abuse of liquor consumption itself is a problem. Surely the society must take responsibility as well on that particular aspect. We've got at least to stand up on some of these issues. And the young people, yes, of course, there can be different stories and accountability, but at least also parents. You can't just stay and sleep with your 13-year-old without knowing where she or he is. So, I mean, some of things you can't really understand how they happen. Yes, we know young people are tricky. They can do all these other things. But it's a sad situation. To me, it shows the low levels of morals, the moral decay that we are really dealing with in entire society. It's a societal problem which we've got to work together collectively to address this, because it's difficult to understand. It's very difficult to understand. I'm saying this knowing it very well, how parents are going through. I'm a parent myself. I just can't understand some of these issues, how probably are happening. But of course, we can't allow. We really condemn something like this. We condemn everyone who breaks the law, and young people must be looked after. Parents must look after their kids. You can't just have kids all over the show. So it's important that we also stress that point, that we've got to take that responsibility as well, and work with all the authorities, government, etc., to ensure that things like these, at least we are able to prevail on them. It's a very sad situation. Of course, we want to extend our deepest word of condolences to the families, and wishing those other young people in hospital speedy recovery. It's not an easy thing. It's difficult. It has been a difficult day, a very sad day. I understand what Minister Begicele went through seeing those bodies.
Yes, Premier, I don't mean to interject, but I need to just get through a couple of more questions. You highlighted the fact that there are still teenagers in hospital. Do you have a figure of how many are still in hospital, and are they critical?
Yes, they are critical. At some point during the day, which was about 4, I think the number has been going down, but overall it has been about 4 that were reported to be very critical in hospital.
Okay, I want to speak about the support that you're providing to these families that have lost their children. We're speaking about 21 teenagers that lost their lives in the early hours of this morning. What support are you providing to these families?
Using our Operation Maspatisane, Property District Development Model, we are all there with municipalities. Of course, you talk about the counseling support, psychosocial support that you need. Those families must be calmed down professionally by psychologists. It's not an easy thing, and it's part of what government is doing. But we are also happy to get also private sector coming on board, people offering other services that they can do just to try to mitigate and relieve this from the families. So we're working, all of us then, across the socio-economic spectrum to make sure that we are able to reach out to those families who are in dire need of support. So municipality is working out. I know Mayor and his team are meeting tomorrow to shape the way forward to support. But today, Deputy Executive Mayor has been on the ground with MEC, Tikana were to make sure that the families are well looked after, taking families also to the mortuaries to identify their bodies. Most bodies have already been identified. I think we're just now left with about 5 bodies which were not yet identified. So all that has been done through the coordination of government to make sure that we identify bodies so families are alerted and everyone is aware. So we are coordinating that, and we'll be able to be working with the families from tomorrow to make sure and see how best are we going to navigate this challenge moving forward.
Premier, I want to ask you whether or not this tavern or club has been shut down.
Automatically, the tavern has been closed today, temporarily, of course, because of the incident that has happened. As we speak now, it's a crime scene. Police are working on it to make sure that they collect all the necessary evidence for their investigation and possible the case that will be opened at a later stage. So it cannot operate, but all other details from here will be able to be looked at. As I've said, that it's a tavern that has been operating legally because it has got a license. But if a law has been broken, clearly there will be strong grounds to make sure that there's a decisive intervention there. But these are things that we cannot simply say as we respond to questions, because we've got to follow the law. The law guides all of us. We don't want to be taken to court. But even the owner knows very well. Community is not happy. Community has been expressing their very much unhappiness about what has been happening in that space. So we are working with everyone involved now. I think the owner himself or herself, wherever he or she is, understand it very well. You can't have that incident and within a week you see that tavern operating. So it's something that will be looked at. If that tavern has been selling liquor to the underage, surely it has been breaking the law. It has been undermining those cardinal rules of trading on liquor. If that tavern has been operating beyond the bylaws that have been provided, clearly that has broken the law. So municipality must come in on bylaws to look at that. And liquor board is also on board to make sure that we also look at people that we have actually given licenses. If they are breaking the law, that act is there. It is enacted to make sure that people operate legally. So we'll be dealing with all such issues. Clearly, it cannot be allowed to continue. It can't be business as usual.
No, certainly not, Premier. And I fail to understand how you say that the community has been complaining about this particular situation, and you had underage teenagers who are underage in a club environment where alcohol is being sold. Surely something should have been done before this horrific tragedy happened. But we'll give you time to assess the situation and for police to investigate further. And we'll definitely be checking in with you tomorrow and in the course of the week. Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. That is the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane.